Years ago I used to be a frequent patron of the Glasgow Women's Library, and I went to this group called LIPS, Lesbians in Peer Support, and I remember one night we were all inside the library and I saw this jar of pens there, and it said, and they all said London Lesbian Line, and we all had a bit of a giggle, thinking, you know, what would happen if you took one of these pens home with you and like your mum or your dad found it and you weren't out? How bad would that be? What sort of shenanigans would occur because of this? And I ended up sort of bringing the lesbian pen into Vicky Romeo plus Jules as a plot device. And at the start of the novel, my narrator Vicky, she borrows a pen off somebody in a bar and she writes down details that are on a flyer, and then she actually lends the pen to Jules, who then writes in her number as well. And this pen, throughout the novel, goes on a journey around various people. Vicky, at the same time, is doing night classes in creative writing, and she's asked to write a story about a day in the life of an inanimate object, and she chooses to write about the lesbian pen, and she writes 2 stories, and I'm going to read the first one to you now. It's called The Day in the Life of the Lesbian Pen. The lesbian pen's name was Radcliffe Orlando Sackville West, and she was a member of the Ballpoint family. Born in a tiny assembly line in a factory in Elephant and Castle sometime around late July of 1987, Radcliffe was the offspring of a charity called the London Lesbian Line, and she spent most of her earlier years together with a cluster group of her unemployed sister pens, inside a brown and white spotted Tupperware mug, behind a potted cactus on the windowsill of the 4th floor of the Women's Archive Trust for Scotland. This, of course, was until she was obscurely plucked by one Christine Elizabeth Platt, a warp-fingered student of English literature and queer theory, who recognised Radcliffe's obvious talent for essay writing, despite a lack of previous experience in either autography or manuscription. And although Radcliffe did not possess the fluidity of an ink gel or fountain pen, nor could she claim kinship to the Watermans or prestigious Parkers, the partnership she had with Christine Platt was found to be a most amicable one. For she loved nothing more than putting words on paper, especially long meandering sentences that praised the literary merits of her favourites Woolf and Shelley and Carter, and she spent many snug nights thereafter tucked between the thumb and forefinger of the 30-year-old scholar. At least that was, until the dreaded day when Christine lent Radcliffe to a dyslexic client who had come to the archive to participate in an adult literacy programme. It was a most uncomfortable experience, and Radcliffe never even so much as learned the person's name, for the handwriting on the official form was completely illegible, and having no eyes or ears or other sensory abilities, she had no way of gleaning pieces of information that weren't written down. And so this is the sad story of how Radcliffe Orlando Sackville West fell from grace after falling from the anonymous person's coat pocket, having never been returned to Christine Platt, and how she was subsequently kicked along a pavement and through 2 sets of revolving doors before being picked up once again. And it was in the sweaty palm of a square-handed nose-picker named Frank Unwin that she next found herself. Ham-fisted, he thrice dragged the unimpressed Radcliffe across a torn-off piece of a beer-ring drinks flyer that was advertising a Cocks in Frocks night at Bennett's nightclub. Radcliffe was appalled by the penmanship of Frank, which was sloppy, slumping and backward sloping, unlike the upright, neatly printed font of her former mistress. Oh, how she longed to be back in Christine's loving grip. She might have cried then if only she had the ability. But so refined was Radcliffe Orlando Sackville West that she didn't leave so much as an ink blot. Frank wiggled her round plastic bottom against the septum of his nose, and then in each of his ear holes alternately, before discarding her on the wet wooden table. Oh, woe is me, thought Radcliffe, I am rooted, yet I flow, and she began worrying at once that she might never again have the opportunity to quote from another precious poem or novel. Each has his past shut in him like the leaves of a book, known to him by heart, she told herself silently, and his friends can only read the title. And then, after a moment's hesitation, she began to question her very existence. Why was she here? Why was she even on this earth, if not to write great sweeping sentences that mimicked the very essence of Bronte's feelings as she walked across the moors? She had been thrown aside like a Latin proverb, and she was thoroughly suspicious that this was because of her gender and overt sexuality. Why, if I was a man, she began, but she did not get to finish her stream of thought, as she became distracted when she was once again lifted up into another set of hands. These hands were small, cool and calloused, and yet gentle, and Radcliffe correctly guessed that they belonged to a female. This was a relief, for her recent and indeed only experience of being fingered by a man was so horrible a one that she'd hoped never to repeat it. She also noticed, in settling into the woman's tender grasp, that she was left-handed and had a tiny paper cup on the edge of her thumb. And as Radcliffe was guided to press the words Tracy and the importance of being earnest onto another dryer, drinks flyer, she hoped to wonder that this person was also a scholar, like Christine. Perhaps they know each other, she mused. Perhaps that they are on the same university course. And perhaps, she thought with a wave of excitement, we shall be reunited. But Radcliffe's burst of hope was short-lived, and she was once again dispensed against her wishes to another personage who, she noted, was almost certainly female, and another left-hander. The woman's name was Julie, and she didn't care one jot about the well-being of the poor lesbian pen, and after she'd finished scribbling, she unzipped her handbag and carelessly tossed Radcliffe into its black abyss. And Radcliffe, now too exhausted to continue feeling outraged, began to think of her other literary heroines, and how many of them had been persecuted upon finding greatness. And with this thought, she comforted herself as she disappeared amongst the loose change and the paper hankies and the other miscellaneous pieces of clutter that she could not readily recognise.